We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, the halachot of Beit Knesset, and we started Siman Kuf Nun Dalet, the laws of Tashmishei Kedusha, things that are used in purposes of holy items, not just necessarily the Sefer Torah and Aron itself, but all the things that have to do with Kedusha. And we're up to Seif Gimal. This is at the end of Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, the regular prince of Mishnah Berura. Tashmishei Kedusha kigon tikshel sfarim muzuzot v'retzuot tefillin. Anything that is used for Kedusha, and examples the Shulchan Aruch gives is the covers of Sfarim, the box of Sefer Torah, and the covers of mezuzot. Right? Sometimes you have this is a big thing, especially if you get this cheap acrylic cover of the mezuzah that comes with them for free, and after a while it gets dirty or it gets chipped, and people just throw it in the trash. I can't throw it in the trash. That's Tashmishei Kedusha. Needs to be nignaz if your mezuzah doesn't have any cover that's not batel to it, and so on. So it says the Shulchan Aruch Retzuot Tefillin is the same thing. Straps of Tefillin, they get old. You switch your straps every so often, and you have to also consider that those are Tashmishei Kedusha, Argaz Shenutnim Bo Sefer Torah, the cover and the box of Sefer Torah, or Chumash, even Sfarim trunks, these bookshelves, the Sfarim that you put in the shelves, the shelf itself becomes Tashmishei Kedusha. Now, we have to talk about this because the Sfarim now have a cover. The cover is Tashmishei Kedusha. So maybe the bookshelf is already Tashmish Kedusha. Maybe is one step removed. But then you have the larger Sfarim, and larger, I mean, they're thicker, and the bottom of the pages actually rest on the bookshelf. So maybe it is Tashmishei Kedusha. V'kiseh shenotnin ma'alav Sefer Torah, the bima that Sefer Torah rests on, right? For instance, it would be Ashkenazi Sefer Torah, and you would have a bima like ours that there is a glass cover on top. Many of the Ashkenazi Batei Knesset also have the same setup. And imagine the glass shatters, right? So that glass was Tashmishei Kedusha because the actual Sefer Torah was resting on the glass, right? So you have to be careful with those things. Vilon shetolin lifnei hechal, even the parochet that you hang in front of the hechal of Aron Kodesh, yesh ban kedusha v'sarich legonzan. They all have kedusha, and you have to be careful. You can't just deal with them however you want, even though that the parochet is not touching anything of kedusha, but its sole purpose, as we will see, I will discuss, is for the kavod and the beauty of the sefer, and hence he has the din of Tashmishei Kedusha. The Rema makes a clarification here that aside short of the parochet, we're talking about things that directly come in contact with Kedusha. The contact is direct with the Kedusha. But says the Rema, or like Aron Kodesh and the parochet, that the parochet is called for kavod of the Sefer Torah, even though that it doesn't touch it directly. Hamichse she'al hakrashim shel asfarim, aval oto michse she'u lishmor oto, but the cover that is there in order to protect it, to protect the michse she'al hakrashim. If you have two covers and one of them is coming just to protect the cover, so to speak, then that second one is not Tashmish Kedusha, but is Tashmish the Kedusha, is one step removed, and therefore it won't necessarily have the same halakha, it will not necessarily have the same din. V'chol kayotze bazeh. Yes, Shomrim, says the Ramam, Delo mikri Aron HaKodesh Raim Hu Kemin Argaz. Aron Kodesh is only called Aron Kodesh if it is like a box. You have, a box, a larger box, and you put Sefer Torah in it. שאינו עשוי רק לכבוד ספר תורה. That's made for the כבוד of אבל ארון הבנוי בחומה, but if you have built-in closets, so to speak, inside the wall, it's built in, there, says the Rama, שנעשה לשמירה, לא מקרי תשמישי קדושה. That's called for, that's made for the protection. That's why you're building it inside the wall, inside the choma, and that's not considered tashmishe kedusha necessarily. V'chol sheken im asfarim mitkalkelim bo. And korshken, if the sfarim don't last in it, then mutar litelan misham. Then you could take it out of that structure in the wall. Now we're going to see what exactly this means when we discuss it with the Mishnah Berura. But nevertheless, it says, "Asur lechabes mitpachat shel sefer Torah b'mei raglayim mipnei hakavod." You cannot wash the mitpachat, the cover, the cloth that covers the sefer Torah. You cannot use cleansing agents that are not respectful. Back in the day, meraglayim, urine was considered something that they mixed with the washing solution as a detergent, as a cleansing agent. So can you do that for Sefer Torah, mitpachat of Sefer Torah? The Rama writes you cannot do it. It's not considered respectful, right? We have this, of course, in the brightest of Ketoret that we say, Pituma Ketoret, Ba'alo meraglayim yafina. Meraglayim is, Smachloket meraglayim, was the river called this, or is it mamash meraglayim? The simple understanding certainly is that this is referring to meraglayim, and even though that it will be very good, Halo meraglayim yafina, el Hashem machnisin meraglayim mekdash mipnei hakavod. You don't bring meraglayim b'mikdash. Mipnei hakavod is disrespectful, and not only b'mikdash, but here we say with tashmishe kedusha also is the same halacha, that we don't want to use something that would be considered disrespectful for even cleansing and cleaning of tashmishe kedusha. So it says the Mishnah Berura here. So we said that tashmishe kedusha, you cannot throw them out. You have to do geniza. You have to hide them away or bury them. That means that I knew that after tashmishe mitzvah kaimalan Siman chaf alif lachashavar misvatar mutar lezorkam. We mentioned that tzitzit, right, and all the tashmishe mitzvah. After you're done with a tzitzit and it's old and it's ripping and what, you could just really throw it. You don't have to do geniza and tzitzit. One of the top items that you find in the geniza boxes that people bring is tzitzit. They bring all their talit katans and tzitziyot. They don't need to. Right? Tashmishe mitzvah nizrakin. You don't want it to do it in a disrespectful way, so you could wrap it and throw it. You could wrap it, double wrap it, and throw it. It's not considered disrespectful, especially if it's wrapped and it's not the way of bizayon. You can't be mebazeh, you can't disgrace tashmishe mitzvah. But it's nizrakin, you don't have to do geriza. You double wrap it, you put it, you put it there. That would be fine. Now, says the Mishnah Berura, tashmishe kedusha is not like that. This is Siman chaf alef. He said tashmishe mitzvah. We're talking about tzitzit in Siman chaf alef. That tashmishe mitzvah, you could throw them. Tashmishe kedusha is not like that, says the Mishnah Berura. Ela af lachar shenitbalu, even if they have rot away, they got destroyed already. They're absolutely not fit for being used. Still, they maintain their kedusha. You have to bury them. You have to do geniza. You can't do any other usage from these tashmishe kedusha. You can't just do whatever you want with them. Af be'odan kayamin. Even when they're still standing, when they're still there, still cannot use them for tashmish chol, right? It says. ודווקא תשמיש קדושה עצמה, אבל דבר המשמש תשמיש קדושה, but something that is a secondary usage, in other words, it's tashmish the tashmish the kedusha, right? It's one step removed. הוא הנקרא תשמיש the tashmish, אין בו קדושה ומותר להשתמש בהן אף בעודן קיימות. Those things you could use even when they're still gesund and they're still healthy, you still could use them for other things. Tashmish kedusha, example would be, imagine if you have tashmish kedusha for a cover of a tefillin, right? Imagine that if a tefillin bag would be considered tashmish kedusha. Now, if the tefillin bag does not touch the yud or the dalit and doesn't touch the tefillin itself, because nowadays the tefillin itself comes in a plastic cover box, right? So that's for sure tashmish kedusha, right? But if the bag, the tefillin bag, doesn't touch the actual ktitza, the actual tefillin, it only touches the retzuot. The retzuot are considered, we just said, tashmish kedusha. So if the bag is protecting only the retzuot, is touching only the retzuot, and is touching the plastic cover box of tefillin, so the bag then is tashmish for tashmish kedusha. Because anything and everything that it's touching is tashmish kedusha. Right? The box is tashmish kedusha. The retzuot, so the bag becomes tashmish the tashmish. Tashmish you could use for other things, right? Now, if you didn't have those plastic covers, right, boxes, then it would become a whole different story, because now the bag is tashmish kedusha. But then, if you put your tefillin bag in your talit bag, then talit bag for sure is tashmish the tashmish. So what happens? When you have tashmish the tashmish, you could use it for other things. You could put your staka money in there. You could, you could use it. You could put your checkbook in there if you want to write checks for staka. You could put your pen in there. All of that will be fine. It's the strap of the tefillin. The straps of the tefillin are considered tashmish kedusha. Yeah, Ritzua is tashmish kedusha. It's not tashmish the tashmish. Right? So it says, and it's not kedusha itself. It's tashmish kedusha. Right? Tik shel sfarim. Haynu Torah neviim ketuvim shem kedusha. When we say tik shel sfarim means it's Sifrei Tanakh. Right? You have Nevi'im, you have Sefer Shmuel. The cover of it is considered tashmish kedusha. Va'atik have tashmish kedusha. The cover will be considered tashmish kedusha. Same would be with the wooden amud that you have at the end of Megillat Esther, right? The amudim of the Sfarim are considered tashmish kedusha, right? It's serving the kedusha.
Wooden amud, you talk about the canister that holds
No. We talk about that too, but we're talking about what's sewed up to the cloth. There's like a little rod. The wooden rod that's correct. So that is considered tashmish kedusha as well, right? So the Ben Ish Chai writes. The Ben Ish Chai writes that the wooden rod is considered tashmish kedusha. Says the Mishnah Berura, same is with all the Sifrei Kodesh. All the Sifrei Kodesh is the same halacha. Now Kaf HaChaim writes that, and this is talking about the Tik Shel Sfarim, the cover of the Sfarim that they had back in the day, right? But the cover that we have for Sfarim nowadays is considered tashmish the tashmish, right? In other words, you've seen this like fancy leather-bound tefillin, the tehillims that you buy, and they come in a cardboard box, fancy cardboard box that they slide in nicely, right? So what is the halacha of that box? It's a cover of Sfarim, but the Sefer already has a binding of its own, right? So binding is tashmish kedusha. The box is considered tashmish the kedusha. Here, when we talk about the covers of Sfarim, we're talking about back in the day that their Sfarim was like our Megillat Esther. So you see the cover of Megillat Esther that you put the Megillat Esther in, that is tashmish kedusha, right? It's tashmish kedusha. But the cover that you put a sefer in, those cardboard covers, that's tashmish the tashmish. So, if you decide to use it for something else at some point, mutar, right? Now bookshelves become a little sticky over here because we have to talk about whether or not the bookshelves. It happens all the time, by the way. People get married, they have bookshelves of Sfarim, and then they move. The bookshelves are not as nice anymore, or whatnot, or they're getting like more bookshelves, so they're getting this custom made, more higher end. So what do they do with the old ones? Sometimes they give it away, right? Or sometimes they put it in their kids' room, and now there are kids' books and toys and whatnot inside of it, right? Storage. It becomes storage sometimes in the garage. Can you do that? Well, not so pashut. If this was a Sfarim shrunk, if this was a Sfarim shelf, right, to sell it to someone else, or to give it away to somebody else, and they want to use it for chol, you want to put it in the garage for storage, not so pashut. You want to put it for your kids, toys, not so pashut, right? Says the Mishnah Berura, Argaz shel Sfarim, mai shu chan lekach, va'afilu im adayin lo natan bo rak mamachad. If you bought and built, you assembled the Argaz shel Sfarim for purpose of your Sfarim, so this is going to be my Sfarim shelf, right? And you put one sefer on it one time, right? Boom. It has the kedusha because you made hachana and you acted once upon that preparation. That already does it, right? But says the Mishnah Berura, אם עדיין לא נתן בו רק פעם אחד, או שלא הוכן מתחילה לכך, אך שרגיל ליתן שם בקביעות, גם זה נתקדש על ידי זה. Chanal v'siman membet ayin sham. So even if you did not prepare it, but you always put Sfarim in your argas, in your Sfarim shrunk, and then putting it once already is considered it was hachana from before, and it becomes a problem, right? Now, this is important because as we'll see this, and I'm thinking whether or not we should wait for saying this. We'll say them. We'll explain maybe next year. It's important when a person buys for shul or for a house, buys Sfarim shrunk, the bookshelves. You should make a tanai, right? You should make a tanai. You should make a condition before you assemble it. You say, I'm going to be using this for Sfarim, of course, but I don't want it to become Tashmish Kedusha. I'm planning to use it later on for my kids' toys, for storage. I'll give it away to people. I don't want this to become something binding that, binds me away from being able to use this in future. I want it to be a multi-purpose thing. I'm not meyahed, I'm not designating this for Sfarim necessarily. Right now I'm using it for Sfarim. By making a tanai that should not have the kedusha in that way, that certainly helps, as we will see as the sugya develops. But Be'ezrat Hashem will be continuing. This topic will continue Be'ezrat Hashem in the days to come.
It's the same about building a library or building bookshelves.